If you've looked for a new place to live in the past few years, you know it's like finding a unicorn, basically. For millions of Americans, finding a home that fits your needs and your budget is nearly impossible. And a home with all of your wants is often out of reach. Years of high interest rates and low inventory are making it more difficult to buy a home, and as a result, people may opt to rent. But renting may not actually save you much. Rents have soared more than 30% on average since 2019. Before the pandemic, rent across the United States was about $1,600 a month. Today, it's closer to $2,000 a month. When it comes to buying, the latest data shows home prices rose for the 10th straight month, hitting a record high for the month of April. President Biden earlier this year, during a swing state tour stop in Nevada, empathized with what millions of Americans are feeling.
Housing is so much more than just a word. It's about people's lives. For too many people, the dream of having a good home, it still feels out of reach. I get it.
It does feel out of reach. Federal and state government officials have long promised to make housing more affordable, but across the country, the problem is at its worst in decades. Joining us now is Caleb Silver, editor-in-chief of Investopedia. Why is it so bad?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of reasons that make it so bad. One of it is that housing prices have risen, right? Interest rates have risen. They're around 7% right now. They're about 3% back in 2021. And that was the pandemic. That was too low. But a rise in mortgage rates, a rise in housing prices, tighter supply has just made it out of reach for so many people. 49% can't afford a $250,000 home. 49% of home buyers, 77% can't afford that median price home because it's just out of reach. The down payment, the monthly servicing costs, the inflation on your financing, all of that makes it more expensive, which is pushing people into the rental market, which has also seen a big rise, as you mentioned.
Right. Is that just simply a factor of supply and demand when it comes to the rental market? Actually, with both markets, right?
Absolutely, right? And the existing homeowners that want to sell would think about selling, but then they have to go out and get a mortgage at 6.5%, 7% and buy a home that's risen in value.
We were just talking about that. Right? I'm a homeowner, and if I want to downsize because my kids are going away to college and that sort of thing, it costs me more money to downsize because of the interest rates being where they are, and you still have to live someplace.
Right. You're
so in my house that would have been for sale, for example, is no longer for sale.
Right. Multiply that across millions of homeowners facing that, and a lot of homeowners have mortgages below 4%. Don't forget that, and a lot of people own their homes outright, so they're in no hurry to move. First-time home buyers can't afford to get into the new homes, which I said has pushed people into the rental market. And when you look at cities across the country, Denver, San Diego, Phoenix, Austin, New York, Boston, rents have just been rising 30% in the past few years, but also home prices have risen as well. So you have these two factors
So
pushing.
Rents are up 30%.
Yep.
Nationally?
Yeah, nationally, and then median list prices for homes are up 55% since 2019. List prices. It's just been very competitive, tight supply, and not a lot of building of low-income homes or homes that are below 1,400 square feet. Builders, developers want to build the bigger homes. That's where the money and the margins are. And if you look at who's buying, it's the wealthy, the cash buyers who are able to afford the big down payment and the monthly mortgage costs.
Okay, so this has become a huge issue in this presidential election, but what really can a president do about any of this? A president doesn't set interest rates. A president doesn't order houses to be built. I guess he could, in essence, encourage houses to be built, affordable houses, but that takes time. Yeah,
the president and any presidential candidate knows that homes are close to our heart, so the Biden administration has put a proposal into the budget for a $10,000 tax credit, for example, for first-time home buyers, $258 billion towards building or restoring new home units.
But will those tax credits offset the high interest rates and high prices?
No, they just incentivize cities and counties and states to create grants for people to apply for housing. So it opens the door a little bit, but these are just proposals in the budget. This has to get approved. He can't wave a magic wand, and he doesn't have control over the supply and demand issues, which are making the housing crisis so extreme right now. But a lot of presidents promise this, governors promise it. Here in New York City, Mayor Eric Adams has promised it. New York built 13,000 new affordable units last year, but there's $400 million promised by Governor Hochul, so it's hard to get new things built because of zoning restrictions. It's very complicated, especially on the ground. Real estate is a very political issue.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.